The Orville, Season 1, Episode 3, about a girl.
Oh my, about a girl.
Yes, between soul and sacrifice beats the heart of civilization.
Well, yes, it does.
And that line was written by a woman.
Yes.
Yes.
Like shock.
Girl power.
Oh,
And
yes.
we kind of this one tails off of the last episode where they reveal that it's a female Mocklin, which is exceedingly rare, but
I guess
we don't know
that's
exactly how rare it is because, I mean, even his partner Clyden was female to begin with.
statistically according to what's
like
his name?
1 in 70 years.
Once every 70 years. Although it could be a genetic deformation, well, not deformation, but a genetic variation, considering that Clyden was born a woman. It could just be a genetic mutation that he carried in his genes.
Yeah, but
So,
also, how many
yeah.
times do we actually know what?
Yeah, that statistic could be skewed due to...
Yeah, they could be 50% of the time just that they do these things, and nobody bothers to say that it's a shame in that society. So how do we know it's not like 50% and just nobody wants to talk about it because it would be shameful in this society. So for all we know, it could be 50%. Just nobody allows the females to stay females because then you have the culture
Female
coming
breed.
down on them, and because you can the sexes can be swapped relatively easily, just nobody says anything.
Yeah.
Because it was quite awkward. And even though he wasn't as Portis wasn't mad that Clyden was born a female. He was mad that he kept it from him.
Yeah.
And so, when to tell your new spouse, when to tell your spouse about that would be really awkward. If you would you ever? I mean, who would you tell that to? Would you even tell your kid that they were? And so, how many Mocklins are out in space with non-Mocklin doctors that would, because a Mocklin doctor would probably just skip over it, say, "Oh, no, that's perfectly fine, born female, check it off," and they probably wouldn't even say anything. They wouldn't say anything to anybody because even if they saw a 50% female rate, they'd keep their mouth shut because, the equivalent of HIPAA laws,
You know, what's funny is what if everybody was actually born female, but they say like, now it's all male.
I doubt everybody.
Yeah, because Bortis wasn't about, he wasn't saying me too.
Well, that he knows of.
True enough. But then again, he has been examined by non-Mocklin doctors, so it seems like that would have been a thing that would come up.
Yeah.
If it came up with Clyden, then it, because I imagine he's had several inspection, medical, physicals by non-Mocklin doctors, so I imagine at some point one of them would have said something.
Even Dr. Fane would have been like, you were a woman at one point.
Did I have amazing boobs?
But yeah, so I mean, we really don't know the exact sort of composition that this society actually has when it, if you were to take away their ability to do the conversion, what would their society look like? Is that's
I do like Kelly's comment about it's not a illness. Oh, sorry, I can't come into work today. I came down with a case of the tits.
I'm sorry. This is funny. Like, yes, I'm sorry. My jiggly chest fat has made me unable to work.
I suddenly came down with a case of the tits.
Oh, why can't I use that excuse?
Because you don't have tits?
Yeah, true. Be right back. I gotta go get some boobs.
Huh?
Be right back. I gotta go get some boobs.
Anyway. So, Bortus tries to get Doc Finn to do the treatment, and she refuses because it's unnecessary medical treatment. To quote, Bortus, "There's no way in hell I'm doing that."
Yep.
And then he goes and interrupts the captain in his leisure time with a
Cowboy dance off.
yeah. And
at least it was a naked dance party.
Yeah,
and if you notice in the background, the song that's playing is "Girls Just Want to Have Fun."
Girls just wanna have fun.
Singing is not your forte. And Stops is like, "Hey, make her do this." And he's like, "No, absolutely not." And yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. So, at this point, they're doing every average ordinary day things, splitting up asteroids, tracking them apart so that they can save a world, literally saving the world with breakfast. Like, oh, yes.
Just a normal day.
Well, not breakfast, but with very casual ease. So Bortus goes around Mercer and says, "Hey, I can't," basically, a Mocklage is like, "Hey, we're sending a ship. We're going to do the conversion on that ship since you won't do it." And then it becomes responsibility of, then it's like, then Mercer's like, "No, you're not going to do that." And they try and get, they do try and get Bortus's mind changed on this by,
I love the fact that what changed his mind was freaking Rudolph.
Yes, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
I know, that was funny.
If they had euthanized him like they had intended to, wait, that euthanasia wasn't ever on the table.
How will he help pull Santa's sleigh? What? Yes. Yeah. The all the different things. The trying to convince him normally didn't work. Trying to convince him by having Alara beat the snot out of him didn't work. But Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, that worked.
Apparently.
Did he just leave two drunk guys in charge of his kid? Oh, that reminds me of my dad. Well, I guess you know why Gordon is the way he is. And it so much.
Let's see. Yeah, without Rudolph's nose, Santa would not have been able to complete his voyage. And then just leaves like. So this results in conflict between Bortus and Clyden. Clyden still wants this to happen. Bortus is now against it. And we find out about, Clyden's origins.
Origin story, bro.
Yeah. So Vorak, which is the captain of the Mocklin ship, is like, no, we're gonna take, there's one of you that still wants to do the conversion. Okay, we'll do it. We'll overwrite you. We will rule in favor of them. To which, they basically just, order those, tribunal. It's like, like, you want to drag us out in front of everybody about this? Yeah.
Honey, you're embarrassing me.
But they agree to tribunal, and Grayson is going to be the
lawyer,
the advocate, and which in the tradition of Trek, you get a trial, which is always an interesting way they always play these things out, because in a way, if you want to make big points, or talk about something in a big way, the courtroom's really actually quite a nice place to do it, because you get these big, you can ask questions that are very pointed about this. Everything's forced to come to a head. It's very much something Trek has done on numerous occasions.
I mean, the whole Q thing started the Q Civil War with allowing him to commit suicide.
Well, and you've got Data's, sentience,
and the author. I mean, and the Doctor. The Doctor had his sentience trial.
Yeah,
Voyager.
yeah. Data. You got the Doctor. You've got also. Well, I mean, to a lesser extent, you have Drumhead, which it's not a trial per se; it's more a hearing. But it's not, but it puts it in that same position where somebody is asking very pointed questions of somebody else, and somebody gets the chance to basically, in this case, monologue. I mean, whether that would happen in court or not, but it allows Picard to basically sit there and monologue, because Patrick Stewart is a treasure to listen to. But yeah. Over Star Trek, it's you had Worf's hearing with that shuttle. You had several court cases, and sci-fi tends to use them to, again, direct pointed things at the things they want to talk about. And allows for big speeches and all that sort of good stuff.
Yeah, without having to drag it into just, trying to fit an allegory to it. They just, okay, this is a big this is an issue we want to discuss, we can't think of any real stories. Let's just make it a court case. That'll work.
Yeah,
sounds fun.
Yeah, if you need to and really, you don't want to be too clever with it, but you still want to get your point across and have the big moral argument in court. Then, yeah, big moral argument. You don't want to have to do anything clever. It's like, yeah, just court case. Everybody gets to do really pointed, obvious things. It's a bit like just having your characters yell, "I am angry." It's like, it's the equivalent of having your characters yell, "I am angry," which is fine in a children's cartoon, but like in a really young kids cartoon. But you know, in a program here, it's using the court case to sort of circumvent that. People have to, people tell their ideas instead of trying to weave them out from what they're saying as much.
Yeah, instead of we need to discuss this. This is a big issue. So I can't think of any good stories that'll, actually subtly discuss it without causing major, like, oh, that's obviously what that is. Let's just make it a court case. That'll work.
Yeah.
But don't you understand Rudolph? This is why she needs to be a girl, because Rudolph.
I love the fact that they give her a little Rudolph doll at the end.
Oh, I didn't notice that. That's pretty cool.
They gave her a little Rudolph plushie, and I didn't notice it the first time I watched it, before, but I'd rewatched it this morning, and I'm like, "Aw, that is so cute."
Yeah, my internet garbaged out at the last minute or so of the thing, so it got really grainy and stoppy and all that, and so I didn't actually finish the last little few seconds of it, so I may have missed it because of that.
Yeah, it was towards the very end. It was like the last scene was her nibbling on the Rudolph doll.
Well, technically him.
Yeah,
yes.
at that point, technically.
Him,
yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, they get down to the anyway. They're headed down to the planet, and and whether intentional or not, it seems like the thing that if you were, you might be able to attribute to malice rather than incompetence, though that is the never attribute to malice what can be attributed to incompetence, but or something like that. They apparently the Mocklins are big weapons industries, and so they just sort of blow stuff up where they like, and they quote unquote neglected to tell the Orville that they were having a test right in their flight path that day.
Like, oops, sorry about that.
Did we hit you? Oh no, we're good. Damn, we need to aim better. Oh, good, we didn't hit you.
Damn, Santa Claus must never visit there.
That's because they killed Rudolph.
I see. I kind of wonder what Rudolph venison would taste like.
Probably like any other reindeer, I would imagine.
Venison is nasty, so probably not good.
Sorry, what?
I said venison is nasty, so probably not good.
Oh, I've had deer venison, and that's pretty tasty. Smoked.
It's just too grainy tasting. At least the way I've had it. I've had venison jerky. It tastes super grainy.
Yeah, this was smoked, I think, and it was It was very tasty. The one thing about deer is it's very lean, so you might want to add some fat to it in some way or other. Anyway, getting back to the matter at hand, because the trial is much more detailed, though it basically plays down to several arcs, and there's some minor plot hole here and there, but let's see. They make a few arguments about that Alara crushes the cube gavel thing into a sphere, but they're like, well, yes, because she's not even our species. How does this really help?
And a male version of her could have done it with one hand.
Yeah. So, that doesn't really work. And then they choose Malloy to prove that males can be dumb as well, I suppose.
Say, gender does not equate intelligence either way, because guys can be just as dumb or dumber than girls.
That is so true, but people don't seem to realize that.
Maidrock speaks from experience.
Yep.
I am super smartical, okay? It's like super smart.
He's super smart.
I gotta give you heck. Anyway, and then let's see. Then it basically works out, like, especially with the doctor, when he's talking to the doctor, it works out that it's like that you would do circumcision, but you wouldn't do this procedure. It's like it's because it's not life altering. This is her argument was, okay, this is a life altering decision, and his thing is, it's basically works down to this is pragmatism versus principle. In the current society, on Mocklin, he's right that she would be shunned initially because they haven't had females out and about because they've always had this discrimination against it.
And didn't they also make like an argument? It's like, well, don't you circumcise your men?
Yeah,
that was what I was getting at. She said her argument was that it's not really that life altering compared to completely switching sexes and on an infant. And so and they made another thing about the cleft palate. That was another thing. Which one of the jokes felt kind of flat, is like, so Captain Mercer, tell me about your penis. That's just an awkward way of doing a dick joke there, but okay. But yeah, but it's what basically she's advocating for what she believes it should be. She shouldn't be shunned for being female. But they're like, but we shun people for being female. But you shouldn't. And that's basically this show in a nutshell is she shouldn't be shunned for being female, but she will. She shouldn't, but she will. And that's the whole sort of argument of this episode is she shouldn't, but she will. We don't need to change the society. We just conform. And that's their whole thing. Until they come in and we get we get they search the planet, which seems like that would be a thing they would do at some. It's really weird that I suppose
Well,
that nobody's
I
ever searched and saw
act-
that was a female Mocklin running around.
well, she wasn't running around. She was living in.
Well, yes, but not that like nobody has ever done a scan of the planet and said, "Oh, well, there's a female Mocklin." It's weird.
Yeah, well, they wouldn't, and even if they did and did find it, they'd be like, yeah, we're just going to pretend that you didn't see anything.
Like,
Yeah,
actually, no,
I'm curious
let's
as to
do
exactly-
a weapons test over there.
I am curious to see what, because at some point just on a survey of the planet, they probably would have run into that at some point, I would think. When you've got that many scanners and that many, if you're just trying to take a census, it'd be really easy to take a census on, with that sort of technology. You just sort of scan,
Yeah, but
any outworld immigrants those are going to be obvious because they're not going to be Mocklin life signs.
yeah, but again, they don't want to know, so they don't know. It's one of those, if I didn't see it, it didn't happen.
Yeah, it's depending on how how tightly it goes up to the top. Is it just everybody's going to look the other way on this, or is it somebody going, yeah, we probably should just erase that from the record, and anybody who says anything rumor wise on that will just tell them you must have been mistaken, must have been a glitch.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they would do, because
They just probably don't have their scanner set to female.
yeah,
they may not. Yeah, they may not even have like
a gender specificity. It's like, there are some Mocklins up there.
Since there's only supposed to be one sex, it's just not something they even put in on their scanners to look for. It's just sort of, there's a Mocklin, and there's a Mocklin, there's a Mocklin, there's a Mocklin. Old Mocklin had farm, E-I-E-I-O.
And you get a Mocklin, and you get a Mocklin.
Oh.
This whole planet is Mocklin. Of course, it's their homeworld.
That would make sense. And, at the end of this, so they bring her out and reveal her to be one of the, greatest writers of Mocklin literature.
That's something I had a bit of qualm about. It's like, how dare you quote from the greatest writer of all time? Well, why don't you ask? It's like, wait, you're... Mm-hmm. How do they prove this or disprove this? She didn't provide any evidence to prove her point or disprove it. So she could just be talking out her ass, and they're just like, oh.
Yeah, that's...
They're just like, I'm your greatest writer, yet,
But yeah, they don't really... It's one of those things that it might have been in the original script, but then it got cut down for time, like the proofing of it, because that would be... It's a convenient shortcut of, yeah, she is. And I think that was mostly because proving it would take away from the pacing.
Yeah.
Because this is supposed to be the big final sort of, bam, this is our killer argument. Wow. And so to stop it down and prove that she is the writer would be awkward, and
It would kill the pacing. But
yeah,
I just mean, as a general overview, I'm not saying like
yeah, I understand
they
it.
should have done that. It's just they could have simply just said, "I call bluff."
Like, here's an unreleased copy of my next book.
Or you know, and they could have done. Again, it's not because I don't think it's because they forgot or couldn't think of a way to prove it. I think it's just because it would have slowed them. They already had. This is already a fairly long episode in terms of, fairly dense episode as it is. There's lots of arguments. There's, and to add that in would just throw a big pile of mud for your episode to step in before it, finally sort of chugs out to the finish.
Yeah.
So they go out for a verdict, and sometimes the dragon wins. And
I actually like the fact that they lost this, because that is rationally what would have happened. When anybody goes up against the big dogs, anybody goes up against the big business or corporation or whatever, chances are you're going to lose.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody wants to root for the underdog. Everybody wants to be, oh, our heroes won. But that's not always the case. In fact, it's usually not the case.
Yeah, you don't always get a fairy tale ending.
Exactly. And in this case, I wouldn't have expected them to win this, because they are going so hard against a predetermined establishment and going against the grain so much that they're bound to get splinters,
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's the sort of court case that would, it's like chipping away at it. It would.
Yeah. In time.
It's like in time, yeah. It's not changing anything immediately, but it's a bit like the Grand Canyon. You chip away, and chip away, and chip away, and eventually, maybe someday in a millennium, something will be different. But
maybe in a few generations, that case will come to fruition, and they'll be like, well, this has already been established. Yes, but if you look at it this way, and so I would not have expected them to win, and I would have been disappointed if they had won, because this is the this is the long game loss. You lose the case here to win it later.
lose the battle to win the war, I think is what you're going for there.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's about it. The surgery goes through, and the kid is named Topa.
Topa.
Yeah.
Topa loca doka.
I like the name when it's pronounced properly.
Okay. Funny. Subordus is the one that laid the egg.
Which is funny because his mate was the woman.
I know. Like, did you shit it out?
It's rude to ask those kind of questions.
Oh, dear. Captain, it has ridges. That's
Gotta
it.
leave it there.
Yep.
Hmm.
No. I mean, yeah. I mean, fairy tale endings.
I gotta say, the Mocklins still make better Klingons than the Klingons in this new series.
Yeah, but I gotta say, you're not always gonna get a fairy tale ending. No matter if you work hard, and even if your cause is just and right, it's not always gonna end how you want it to.
You've gone Charlie Brown teacher on us for a second there.
Is Justin Wright? Justin Wright, is that a relative of Phoenix Wright?
Oh yes, it is.
Anyway,
I don't know why, but there was interference. I heard like an airplane going overhead or something.
yeah,
Not
you
for
turned
me.
into the, like I said, you sound like Charlie Brown teacher there for a second. You had Charlie Brown teacher syndrome. So like wah 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 wah. I couldn't understand distinct things. It was just sort of a general tone. There was no distinct
Wah
words.
wah 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 wah.
Okay, cut it out. I will reach through the screen and slap you.
Wah 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 wah. Me.
You two stop fighting, or I'll turn this review around.
Great, now we have to say everything in reverse.
No. Anyway, any other thoughts before?
Let me think. Did Isaac have anything to say?
Isaac was the one who said that it was one in every 75 years.
Okay. So
Yes.
he didn't say anything funny. It's like, who cares? You're all inferior to me.
Yeah, he didn't really say much of anything, and the 1 in 75, as we've already discussed, is suspect.
Yeah.
Anything. Anyway.
But that was all he said in the entire episode.
Alright, I got nothing then.
Alrighty then.